my mind and my heart's just overflowing. I'm just so happy today. So happy. So proud of my boy.
Native foods took center stage this week for the Food Network's first ever Indigenous-themed chop competition, Indigenous Inspiration.
Hello, chefs.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
For this special competition, we are honored to have 4 chefs whose culinary points of view are so deeply aligned with their Indigenous communities and cultures. We are very excited to be inspired by what you create on the plates.
4 well-known Indigenous chefs, Justin Payochi, Navajo, Mariah Gladstone, Blackfeet and Cherokee, Ray Naranjo, Santa Clara Pueblo, and Jessica Walksfirst, Menominee, competed for the episode's title of Top Chef, as well as $10,000.
Are you all ready?
We're ready.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Please turn your attention to this first basket.
And who won? Chef Payochi.
Oh my gosh, my mind is just ready to explode. So happy, so proud of my boy. It was a long time coming, and just my mind and my heart's just overflowing. I'm just so happy today.
That was Payochi's mother, Janice Payochi, who was with her son at a watch party in his hometown of Farmington, New Mexico, where cheers erupted when he was announced the winner.
It was so electric to be part of that experience where family, friends, community members, and fellow chop lovers were so enthusiastic to have somebody from the Four Corners area represent them, but also just the Navajo people.
His sister, Tia Payochi, his partner in the Payochi food group, was also on hand.
It really brought tears to my eyes because he's such a special person. And if you know Justin, you know how good of a person he is. That's how such of a nice guy he is. And so nobody else deserves it than him. That's just why I'm just so proud, and I'm still choked up a little bit because the adrenaline's still.
I had a chance to catch up with the victorious chef himself.
Smells like yogurt.
Ja, det Justin Payochi and she ashi hine shle bitani baching beligana dashe tkolechini dashnele. I'm Justin Payochi.
This basket is gnarly. It's going to be a lot of fun to work with. I can't wait to start cooking.
He said he had to put off being on the show for a while.
Honestly, I've been saying no to the Food Network for many times. I think that was about 9 times already I said no. This one was a little different because they said it's going to be native forward. And so I was like, I'm going to do that for sure.
And had nothing but praise for his competition.
It's all about harmony. We all have the same agenda, promoting native foods, native businesses, and all the above. So it made things a lot more interesting and more fun.
Bunch of bones.
The Indigenous food theme episode also included 2 native judges, sous chef Sean Sherman and Piet Despain of Prairie Band Potawatomi. In Farmington, New Mexico, I'm Jordan Bennett-Bigay for ICT.
In a development watched very closely by the Indian Gaming Association, a new Wisconsin law allows for legal online sports betting, but only if Indian casinos in the state are involved. Under the new law signed by Governor Tony Evers this month, the infrastructure to manage the bets, such as computer servers, must be located on tribal lands in the state. That approach, known as the hub-and-spoke model, already is used in Florida. Gaming is legal in Wisconsin only on tribal lands under exclusive contracts between tribes and the state. Supporters of the new law contend that people currently are placing bets using offshore sports books or prediction markets that get around state law. I spoke with Dominic Ortiz, CEO of the Potawatomi Casino in Milwaukee, and he called the new law a big win.
The fact of the matter is, a multitude of companies have already opened up sports betting across the state of Wisconsin, from illegal operators to offshore, to predictions, to sweepstakes, to Fantasy Draft Plus. So when we see that happening, none of those benefits are coming back to the state.
Or to the tribes that rely on gaming revenue to support their sovereignty.
Our tribes, of course, run a full tribal government that provides critical services to our elderly, to our language revitalization, to emergency services, to roads and infrastructure in and around their local community.
Other tribal leaders in Wisconsin did not respond to requests for interviews, but Nicole Boyd, chairwoman of the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians, asked for legislation for online sports betting wagered through Wisconsin's tribes to be approved during her State of the Tribes address last February.
The state will see increased revenue through the state gaming compacts, and consumers will have the legal protection needed to ensure they receive fair play.
And now the renegotiating of gaming compacts begins. And according to the governor, it will be a joint venture with each tribe benefiting in equal shares. Also in Wisconsin, the fight against the proposed oil and gas pipeline continues. Canadian oil and gas company Enbridge wants to put their pipeline near the Bad River Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians Reservation. The tribe's been fighting this for years, and the latest hearing challenging the Enbridge's Line 5 oil and gas pipeline in northern Wisconsin recently unfolded in Iron County's Circuit Court. The tribe and environmental groups want state permits already approved to be reversed and to halt any pipeline construction. The Bad River Band chairwoman Elizabeth Arbuckle in Odana says they're in for the long haul.
We have to protect our homeland. We have to protect Lake Superior. We have to protect our treaty rights and those that, that our fellow other Ojibwe bands in northern Wisconsin exercise and hold with us as well. So we're definitely tired of it. In the end, we have to hold the line. This is our homeland. This is what we've got. We signed a treaty back in 1854 that kept Bad River at Bad River. Our ancestors meant that. They meant for that to never be for sale, and that it would always be used and it would always be protected. And so this isn't me. This was a charge made, over 100 years ago. And it was designed so that it will always stay 100 years from now. So unfortunately, it is exhausting. It is expensive. It can be hurtful, and painful. But, we're not doing this to be difficult. We're doing this because this is our home. We have to stand up with each other and for our people.
For ICT in Madison, Wisconsin, I'm Erica Ahisi.
What do we want? Justice! What do we want? No! What do we want? Justice! What do we want? No! Come on! Say her name! Sahela! I won't say Sahela.
We're being left unheard, and nobody wants to take the time to listen to us.
Community members like Ramey Lightbone, who you just heard from, gathered outside of the Ellsworth Air Force Base in Box Elder, South Dakota on April 17th despite bitter temperatures to call for transparency and justice in the death of 21-year-old Sahela Sangrait, who federal prosecutors say was killed on the Air Force Base. United States Airman Quintarius Chappelle has been federally indicted in connection with Sangrait's homicide. He is charged with first-degree murder. The protest was organized by the Medicine Wheel Riders, which is a nonprofit group of Indigenous women who advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous people and their families.
I do have a lot of questions because it appears that there is a lot of steps that were missing and inconsistent with a lot of police policies.
That's Darlene Gomez, an attorney representing Sangrait's family. Additionally, a neighbor of Chappelle's on the Air Force Base called regarding a domestic violence incident at his residence the night that prosecutors believe that Sangrait was killed. However, law enforcement agencies were unable to contact anyone inside of the residence. Federal court documents also show that Chappelle was already under investigation regarding a separate domestic violence incident at the time of Sangrait's death and was convicted of said charges in November of 2024, 3 months after she was killed. Additionally, several members of the Air Force Base had taken out protection orders against him, claiming that he had threatened to commit a mass shooting on the Air Force Base.
And so I hope that this awareness event makes an impact on these soldiers, on the commanders that are going into this military base, and that there's not this silence of victims. Which, looking at all those cars going in there and knowing that at some point Quintarius had to bring Sahela's dead body through there, or potential dead body, how did the cameras miss it? Why did the police not notify this gate here to Quintarius leaving and flag that they could have saved her? Maybe she was alive when she left this base.
Lorna Cooney, executive director of the Medicine Wheel Ride, said that the protest was done in an effort to shine a light on the injustices facing the Indigenous community and ensure that this would not happen to anyone ever again.
And I want to know that my nieces and my nieces, my nephews, my daughter, I want to know that they're safe and that we've done what we could to try to protect them. And so we just want to be able to, be where we're needed to really support our communities. And I'm glad that they came up here because that's what it's about.
I feel empowered. This is what I want to see happening. I want her voice to be heard because she cannot speak for herself. And I want other people to hear this also.
The more people who know Sahela's story, the less likely it is that she will be forgotten.
For ICT, I'm Amelia Schaefer.
You reporters to put down a good story for this. I want justice for Leah. I want whoever did this to her to be found and held accountable. I want to be able to walk into that law courts, and watch that person take their steps into the jail cell where they belong so that they don't hurt another person, another woman, another mother with children.
Leah Keeper went missing in April 2023, and nearly 3 years later, her remains were found in a back alley in the heart of Winnipeg, Manitoba. On April 8, 2026, family, with the support of Manitoba Grand Chief Kyra Wilson and others, spoke about the tragedy and the loss of the 32-year-old mother of two.
We acknowledge how heavy this is for everybody. When one person hurts in our community, we all hurt.
It's very devastating to the community. We need supports in the community to deal with this stuff because, we don't have the resources to deal with as much as we'd like to deal with when situations like this happen. Just another statistic, but they're not statistics. They're people, they're women, they're band members, they're loved people that have to be treated much better than the way they're being treated right now.
Marilyn Corshade is Leah's auntie, and she has a lot of questions regarding what happened to her niece.
What I'm upset with is why December till now, what has happened within those 3 years. Was Leah's remains there all those 3 years? I don't have any answers, and they're not giving us any answers as to what happened in between all that. We don't know was she in a house? Was she outside of a house? Were there people walking by her remains? We don't know. We haven't heard anything yet.
Keeper was a high-profile case featured on the APTN series Taken.
32-year-old Leah Faye Keeper was last seen in the north end of Winnipeg on July 25th, 2023, but she hasn't been heard from since. Leah faced addiction challenges and was supported by her loving family. Just before the time of her disappearance, Leah had told her family she was ready to go back into treatment. When she fell out of contact, they knew something was wrong.
Corshane is calling on the Winnipeg police to give voice to the families that are living with the losses.
We should have been standing with the Winnipeg police today, should have been standing with us like they do with the white society. They work with us. Instead of just thinking they know it all, they don't. They need our help just as much as we need them.
A memorial vigil was held on April 11th in Winnipeg, Manitoba, in honor of the life of Leah Faye Keeper. special correspondent Miles Morisseau for ICT.
What is a freedman? I asked two women of freedmen descent to tell their stories. Alana Roberts takes a scholar's approach to her ancestry.
Well, I'm an associate professor of history at the University of Pittsburgh, and I study this history as my daily life and my daily research because on my father's side, I'm a descendant of Chickasaw and Choctaw freedmen. So the basic question is, what is freedmen? Freedmen is a term that refers to Black people who were enslaved by Native Americans from the mid-1700s to 1866, and since my father's ancestors were enslaved by Chickasaw and Choctaw Indians, I'm a Chickasaw and Choctaw freedman.
Melissa Payne is the Freedmen Community Liaison for the Cherokee Tribe of Oklahoma.
I am the Community Liaison for Cherokee Freedmen Descendants, and not the same as Elena's, but as a freedman, we are similar to the mishaps. So as the liaison, I assist individuals with direction within the Cherokee Nation. I work directly under Chief Chuck Hoskin and Brian Warner's administration, Deputy Chief. I love what I do. We've come a long way. I'm the daughter of Rosalind Brown King, and she was one of the individuals that worked with Marilyn Van on pushing us to actually receiving citizenship. That court case occurred in 2017.
How do you find out if you're a freedman?
Genealogy, you do work. You have to connect with, you could know that you even descend from a Cherokee freedman, but not be a citizen. So it's a lot of information there. But to find out if you are, in fact, a freedman descendant of any of the tribes, you would have to trace your lineage back to the Dawes Roll. And once you've traced it back there, Now, ultimately, anyone of African descent or with a little more melanin descend from freedmen and it goes into a whole other story. I'm sure Elena could touch on anyone that was in fact enslaved, and that was even in the States, were considered freedmen once slavery was abolished. So, but to specify for tribal citizenship, you would have to connect your lineage to the Dawes Roll.
Your story as a Chickasaw freedman is much different than Melissa's, right?
It is in the past and in the present, yeah. So from the mid-1700s to 1866, the Cherokees, the Chickasaws, the Choctaws, as well as the Muskogees and the Seminoles, they all had members of their tribal nations who owned slaves. But for the Choctaws and Chickasaws, after the Civil War, they had a treaty of 1866, like the Cherokees did, but theirs was a little different. So they had the option to adopt or not their freedmen as citizens. And both tribes took a lot more time to make this decision, with both of them kind of going in diverging directions. So the Choctaw Nation decided in 1883 to make freedmen citizens in their nation. That means for 100 years, the descendants of slaves were considered politically and legally to be Choctaw. But in 1983, the Choctaw Nation changed their constitution and decided that freedmen were no longer citizens. Even though nothing had changed, their shared history was the same, their shared culture was the same. And that's in recent memory. My dad was living in 1983. So the memory of freedmen is certainly still in that nation. So they're not strangers. For the Chickasaw Nation, they also had slavery for the same amount of time. They actually had a larger proportion of enslaved people in the Chickasaw Nation than in the Choctaw Nation. But they did not decide to adopt their freedmen, even though there were lots of discussions about doing so.
How did so the irony of all this stuff is that they call these the 5 civilized tribes because they had slaves. Well, we can debate that kind of terminology, which is just nuts, but how did they get the slaves in the first place?
Individuals were enslaved. In fact, they made a huge impact on the economies. And so it's for the Cherokee Nation, we're fortunate enough to be accepted as citizens, and I'm grateful for that. But I just feel like for any freedman descendant to have that link missing, there's something within you that is not fulfilled. There's a void. It's painful because And I've heard different stories. I've heard individuals specify, why do you want to belong to some group of individuals that doesn't want you? Well, my ancestors did not endure what they endured, as did other ancestors of the other tribes. They didn't endure what they did to make a living and to impact that nation to just be forgotten. And so this is a part of our culture. It's a part of our heritage. It is our history. And so it continues to run through us. And that desire to be recognized and accepted and embraced is necessary. As the Cherokee Nation has done this and moved forward, I must say, I could sense the healing shift, and it can show up in so many ways. So it's a very sensitive and touchy subject, but it's very impactful to understand where you come from, who you are, and who your people are, your culture, your heritage, et cetera. These individuals that were freedmen back then, they spoke the language of all of these tribes. This was their way of life.
My new organization, Freedmen Futures, is working to unite tribal citizens who are supportive. And there are more and more every day. I talk to people who follow us on Instagram. We're putting together information so that we can share it with more citizens so they can understand this history, because I think education lessens that fear. And we're gathering. So, I hope that people will join us.
I am so glad you're doing the work that you do as far as education. Well, both of you, because I have learned so much from you both about this issue and your background. And it's a very important part of the American history. And I thank you both for taking time out and talking to me about it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. This is important. We want our ancestors' voices to be heard. We want their stories to live on through us. And so thank you for setting platforms for us to have that ability to even do that. So greatly appreciate this.
We thought this was cool. We got to catch world champion hoop dancer Shondine Lawrence at a recent performance.
Hello, my name is Shondine Lawrence.
We caught up with her after the show and asked her about her years with the famous performance troupe Cirque du Soleil.
I actually started with Cirque du Soleil in 2013. I worked with them for 9 years. My older brother, Nakota Lawrence, was the original hoop dancer in Cirque du Soleil, yes, who we lost in 2020. But, my brother was known as the greatest of all time, the GOAT of Indigenous hoop dancing. And Cirque du Soleil has a lot to do with that. When you're working with Cirque du Soleil, you are working with some of the very best athletes in the world, and you're doing 8 to 10 shows a week, 6 days a week. And, you just spend that time mastering your craft. So during that time, that's when I became what I like to call a master hoop dancer. It's a tangible piece of my culture that I can take with me all over the world. Hoop dancing is said to be originally a healing ceremony that was done by the medicine men, and I feel like it really still truly holds that power. And, being able to share our cultures with one another, it helps us understand each other better, which is something we really need here in the United States. Appreciating our cultures, appreciating the diversity, and uplifting the diversity of each other.
Her father played the music that accompanied her.
My name is Steve Lawrence. I'm coming to you from beautiful Aspen, Colorado. We're having a small exhibition powwow dance for you today. And my daughter, Shondine Sonwai Lawrence, just completed a Native American hoop dance. And it was well received here.
We asked Shondine about coming to Aspen, the city known for, among other things, its Ideas Festival.
Here in Aspen, I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, we always bring the Ute, because the Ute are the original landowners here. And they're like, we brought the Ute here. And I'm like, I just find it funny how you keep saying, we brought the Ute here. And it's like, actually, this is the Ute land. Like, nothing was brought. They've been here. And it's unfortunate that we don't see more of our indigenous cultures being lifted up in our individual territories, because our diversity is so unique and so special. So I really look forward to seeing what Aspen continues to do when it comes to uplifting their indigenous communities.
And what about a message for the youth?
You know, when I was a young person, my mom always told me, she'd be like, you have to understand that you are less than 1% of the world's population. You know, your ancestors fought hard to be here, and you are here, and you are beautiful, and you are special. And we are so unique, and we are so diverse in our cultures, and we are so lucky to have our beautiful brown skin, and to have our cultures, and to be true Americans. That's what we are. We're true Americans. And we are the real representatives of the United States, and how we carry ourselves is a reflection of who we are. So remember to carry yourself with pride and dignity and love and beauty. We're capable of so much. You know, as a young girl, I didn't realize how powerful I could be as a dancer. And I was like a chubby little native girl. Like, I never would have expected to be an athlete. But I am, and I'm very proud of what I do, and I really enjoy working hard and being able to share my culture. So, you know, keep going to my Indigenous youth kids. You're beautiful, you're special, you're wanted, you're loved, and, you know, we're proud of you, and we look forward to seeing what you bring to the next generations.
Shondine Soleil, champion female hoop dancer, Cirque du Soleil performer.
In Ute homelands, in what is today known as Aspen, Colorado, I'm Stuart Huntington for ICT.